everyone, it's Lara, and I want to thank you for stopping by to check out Tarina Tidbits. This is a new segment where one of our partners will come on, take 5 to 15 minutes, and talk to you about something that is reading and writing related. Today's topic is going to be names of characters and places. Shakespeare said, "What is in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would still smell sweet." And that's true. But as authors, we need to make sure that our character and place names make sense for our story. There are a couple of ways to do that, and we're going to discuss character names first. So authors use several methods to choose their character names, whether they like the sound of the name, like Elijah is a very nice name. If I could name all of my characters Elijah and get away with it, probably would. Whether you're looking for a name that means something, if it means protector or savior or hope, or if you're just using a random name generator. Either way, whichever method you use, I think we can all agree that character names are important to your story. A few things to keep in mind when choosing names is your setting. If your story takes place in a historical period, then you want to choose a name that's common during that time. And this helps with the reader and make sure that everything is convincing. They're not taken out of the experience of the story, and they're just connecting with your characters and their story. Keeps them coming back and gives good reviews, I hope. So this is good because if you want to choose a name from a specific time period, which you should if you're writing a period piece, this is the Social Security website. What they do is they take the census and they give you the top 200 names from the 1880s all the way up to the 2010s. And it goes by decade. It does only go back to the 1880s. So if you need something farther back than that, you can just Google it and say, "Hey, Google, what was the most popular name in 1649? Google will have an answer, most likely. This is good, and you can see here that one of the top names was Ida or Florence or Bessie. And it kind of goes both ways, because if you have a contemporary story that takes place in 2020, you're not going to name your main character Bessie, because it's going to give your audience pause and they're going to say, "Bessie? Her name is Bessie?" But if it took place in 1880, that makes sense. I also would like to talk about location, because your setting is more than just your time period, it's also your location. And you want to keep that in mind when you're choosing your character name, because if you have a character who lives in Greece, you don't want to give them a name that has Irish origins. You want to give them a name with Greek origins, just to help that character feel authentic. Now, this is something I did with Arranged. My characters, the story takes place in America, but Juhana and her family are from New Caledonia, and 3 of her guys that she ends up with are from New Caledonia. So I chose Adabale and Kshol from this random name generator that I'm going to show to you now. It is awesome. It's called Behind the Name, and I use this also for Hemi. And I actually used it for Markham's last name because I liked the name Markham. I came across it when I was doing temp work, and I knew I wanted him to be from Basque, so I looked up surnames, which this also has too. It has a surname site. But you can come here and you could say, I want to look up first name or up to 3 middle names with it. I want five options, because who doesn't? And we're going to pick feminine names. You can actually type in your surname if you want, if you know what you want your surname to be. You can just click random. I always like to avoid rare names because I want my characters to be relatable. And so I just want more of a contemporary and run-of-the-mill name. And you can generate a life story, which is pretty cool. So we're going to go down here, and we're going to click Greek, because that was the example. But they do have mythology, and they have biblical and literature and theology names. They have whimsical names and fantasy names. I'm not a big fan of this purple category here. Some of the names are pretty goofy. Actually, yeah, let's do that one. We're gonna say a witch. Okay, we're gonna name a whimsical witch. So then it comes up here, and see, it's a little weird. You got Frog Howl, Black Creek, Startle Curse, or Dark Snort, Snake Drip. So that's why I kind of stay away from that one. It's a little silly, but it is good for more contemporary names. So for this one, some Greek names. This is Chrysa, and she's an adult female. She lives in Greece. She's 62. She was born December 11 and has A positive blood type and is left-handed. And she dies at 82 of cancer. So this is pretty good. It gives you a little raw bones backstory on your character if you're like me and you're a pantser and you don't really know that type of stuff about your character when you're writing the story, and then you're like, I wonder when is their birthday, because the whole year has gone by in the story and I haven't mentioned it. So that's pretty good. And then I also really like it. It gives you a couple different choices, but you can click on the name. So this is Aphrodite, which is a modern form of Aphrodite. And then it tells you the meaning of that name, which is pretty cool because sometimes you want to know what the name means. It can help with your characteristics and traits of your character that you're writing. If you are looking to write a name based on what it means, then you can also Google. This one here is ideas for names, but you can Google like powerful or male names that mean powerful, and then stuff like this will come up. And for magical maidens, mystical maidens, magical girls, mythical, it is, I'm writing a story where I want her guys to have strong names. So her guys' names are actually Alvaro and Callan and Liam, which means strong-willed, and he's gonna be strong-willed. So you can do that too. It's a good way. And the last way I'm gonna show you for names is this is a site called In Different Languages, and we use this not just for character names, but for place names as well, and object names. So I typed in moon, and moon in Basque is Alargia, and we actually named that in our tarot story, the moon. And I named my main character, Ku. He is the physical embodiment of the major arcana, the moon, and it's a little bit like cheating, but it's also awesome, so I'm just gonna go with it. All right. So moving on from character names, I'm going to talk a little bit about place names, and you want to take those into account as well, because whether you're writing a contemporary story or a fantasy story, it's still important. If, say, you want to write a story in Texas, you can either choose a story that takes place in Houston, or you can make up a town name and place it nearby Houston. So you can say, oh, in the town of Clark, which is on the outskirts of Houston, this is what happens, and this is the story and everything that you want to say. Now, I don't actually know if there is a place named Clark, Texas, next to Houston, so if there is, it defeats the purpose and ignore that. But I will say that it allows you to be more liberal with your directions and policies in the town. So say you're writing a story about Houston and you're not from Houston, but you've done what you think is adequate research. But then you get a reader, and the reader is going through the book and saying, wait a minute, if you're in Houston, you're not going to take that way to get from point A to B. That just doesn't make any sense. Nobody would do that. And then your reader is actually being pulled out of the story and pulled back to kind of reality, and they're questioning the things that the characters are doing, and you don't want that. You want them to be engaged. You want them to keep coming back. You want them to focus on your story. So that's why that is important. And now Shauna, when she wrote Bitter End, and actually the sequel is coming out soon. It's called Bad Blood, and so look for that coming out. She has a town. It's Bitter End, and it's by Nashville. And it gives you an ability to say, okay, this is in Tennessee, it's by Nashville. I have an idea of, you know, what the weather is going to be like there, what the people are generally like in the middle of America. And you can kind of hear their accent and go from there. So you can still connect to the place without having it be a real place. That's kind of like what I did with Arranged. She lives in North Carolina. I didn't actually name the town, but I hint enough to the fact that they're on the shoreline because they go to the beach. So, and it's not that far away. And then another example is Jack, who is another of our partners. They wrote Florida is Gone and Government is Gone. And you can, Government is Gone comes out on December 4th. So if you haven't gotten a pre-order copy of that, just make sure you do. But they actually use the map, and you can follow along with the trip that the characters are taking. And I've heard a couple of different people say how cool that is, because they feel like they can connect with the characters on even higher level, being able to follow along with them. And they go all up through Florida and into Georgia, and it's a really great story. So that's contemporary, but if you're writing fantasy, it also matters. And if you're like Kate and you write, you make up a whole world, you've got some names to create, you've got some policies and cultures to create, and it's a lot. But I think Kate did a really great job in The Wood Witch's Daughter, and guess what? The Last Dreamer just came out. So if you haven't got that one, go get that one too. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to come up with names if you don't have them in your head. So this one is namegenerator.org.uk, and it creates country names. So you type in, let's go with R. I like to leave the end letter blank because it just leaves it wide open to any type of name at all. And then we're gonna say, write me some countries. There we go. I apologize for that. So we have, Ratu and Rasinina Isles. Up with some pretty good names. But I do like Asgar's better because, and I'm also gonna switch off of this one, I'll show you. You can say, this is a 2-continent choice. And if you go over here to options, you can say, I want a high island area. I'm going to stick with dark fantasy because I like it. And I'm going to say, new map, generate. And the reason I like this is because it gives you a map, so you can know where the countries are in conjunction to each other, but it also gives you some pretty cool names, like the Diocese of Cliffract and the Kingdom of I don't know if it's Roccoso. I would say Roccoso. And Pish. I like that. That's cute. So this is a good site for that. This is Asgar. It is a map generator, and it gives you some names. So it says this is, hang on. Oh, look, this is the Principality of Seniza. And this one here, oh, there's a little berg there. You can actually zoom in, and it gives you town names too. Masenbury. Very cool. All right, and now my favorite one to work with is Incarnate. This is a paid app, but it's very affordable. This is what we use to make our Taroko map, which is what we are using for our shared world for tarot. We are actually writing stories for 22 of the major arcana, or for all 22 of the major arcana. It's a story that we're going to weave together about ascension. And when we came up with this, I kind of freehanded the map and then scanned it, made it a JPEG, and like traced it here, and then we colored it in, we put stuff on it. So it was pretty cool when we were naming them. We had a meeting, there was some drinking. But some of them, we just took names and added them together. And then for like Yadafast, Jack was like, yellow ass desert is probably hot as shit. And that's how we named Yadafast. It was just so much fun. But I have another map that I created for my Snow White retelling. And in it, there's a kingdom of Umbalis. And Umbalis is like, I was looking at an umbrella and I was looking at something else and I just married them together, and Umbalis, there you go. So yeah, so that's how we did that. And we have some cool ones where we added, you know, little apostrophes, and yeah, so that's exciting. Keep your eye out for that one. All right, guys, I just want to end with one frequently asked question, and that is, can you use real place names in your stories? And the answer is yes, as long as you're not disparaging to that business in any way. For example, in Arranged, they go to the boardwalk and they get some cookies. I wanted to make sure that the cookie place that they go to had a fun name and really out-of-the-box cookies. So I looked it up and I found Kooky Cookie, which I thought was pretty cool. And they just go in, they buy their cookies, they go out, and they're going on with their day. So nothing bad about that place at all. And Shauna in Bitter End, she has Cricket hang out at a bar, and the bar is actually a real bar, I think in Tennessee somewhere. But again, Shauna's not using any bad, you know, connotations with this bar. She's not saying that they serve horrible beer and horrible food and only the worst people go there. So that's good. So if you want to say something like, every morning before class, we go to Starbucks and grab a coffee, that is completely fine. And just keep it right, keep it nice, you know? Why don't you drop down in the comments and let me know what your method is for picking your character names or naming your places. And be sure to subscribe so you can watch all of our Tarina tidbits. Thanks, guys. Bye.